I mean, that to me is frustrating. Of all the things, I mean, you have a background check, psychological test, you have lie detector test, you have your credit check, you have your references. And with all that, you still get bad cops in the police department. I mean, psychological tests, record check, background checks, references, your financial history, your neighbor. And I mean, they talk to you, they go and investigate you. And even with all that, somehow bad cops get into these departments. That tells you can pass, a bad cop can pass a lie detector test. Either when they took the test, they passed it because hey, they were new. Their plan wasn't to go and be a bad cop. But then they got into the law enforcement, they got into the department, and perhaps there's a culture there that changes. It either happened before or after. And I remember when I came on, I had a bad experience with, my partner was African-American, Juan Phillips, who was in a paper with COVID. He was my first partner. And we worked together, and I remember him getting into a scuffle in the station house because somebody called him a name. And I'm not going to repeat what they called him. And that was on the west side in Precinct 10 when I was a patrol officer, and we were riding together, and I saw the culture. There was a culture there. I remember the words they would say and the things how they treated African Americans. There was a culture there, the way they spoke. I didn't see them do anything bad, but I just saw the attitude and the way they spoke about other people. And I saw that, and how speak English, and you're in America, that kind of thing. Speak English, you're in America. That's just kind of the culture that was there. So when I came on from the academy, I came in with, I was excited and wanted to hit the street running. I wanted to get in the police car. I wanted to patrol. I wanted to answer calls. I wanted to stay busy. I knew I got a lot of energy. I came into it, and that's the culture that I saw. And so I imagine that's the same culture that is in many other cities. And you might come out of the academy a good kid, and you're thinking all the good things, and you go in and there's this culture, and then either you change the culture or sometimes you assimilate into that culture. I like to think that people will say, hey, no, I'm not part of that. I don't, you're not going to treat that person that way when you're with me. I mean, you're just, you stand up, and I'm not going to lose my job, my career, and affect my family because you're the way you are. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let that culture change who I am. And that's the frustrating part. That sometimes, you come in and you start to assimilate. If that culture is there, you start to assimilate. And that's the unfortunate part. I hope there are good police officers saying, no, I'm not going to sacrifice my career, my family, because you are that way. And that's what we need to do. We need to say, hey, we're not going to let this culture change the good cops. We have to get them out. I don't, if the thing that bothers me, if you have a file with a list of violations, a pattern of violations, and I said, what? He got reprimanded, he got suspended, he got for misconduct that had to do with people's civil rights. What? I mean, all of this, I mean, you can't go through their files, but if you were able to look through their files and say, hey, those are the bad cops that give the good cops a bad name. And those are the cops we have to get out. And I mean, it frustrates me. But when they do get them out, I celebrate it. I'm saying, this is good. When they say, hey, you're out of here. I say, that is great. Because they give good cops bad names, and we all assume that all cops are bad. I've worked with so many of them. That's why it bothers me when I see them tarnish the badge and the good police officers, and then people start saying defund, 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 because they see all that and there's no trust. There's no confidence in them. That's the frustrating part. How do you build confidence when they see things like this on TV? So how do you build trust when you look at body cameras and you see that, and all of a sudden you say all cops are like that because of those guys? I mean, how can it possibly be that you can violate a person's civil rights, that you can work outside the scope of the law, that you can do something and then somehow the system allows you to keep your job, or the contract allows you, or you're represented and that allows you to stay on the job. Something is wrong. Something is wrong there. I believe if you are given power and authority, then they should hold you even more accountable when you mess up. When you're giving power and authority over people's freedoms and people's lives, and you abuse that power and that authority, I think the consequences should be more severe, because you're given that trust. You take an oath. You know, to arrest somebody, to hit somebody who's cuffed, to deny somebody's liberty and freedom without any reason, that's wrong. I mean, it's just, and the consequences should be more severe than perhaps what they are. Yeah. And that's across the board. I mean, people, if I said this, people will say, well, you're anti. No, I'm not anti-police. I'm anti-bad police. I'm for the good police officers. And you have a lot of council members that think this way. I mean, to the credit of the Common Council, many of the council members feel this way. They get frustrated when police officers act outside the scope of the law. They get frustrated. And then they come to us and defund police and defund police, defund police. And we know that it's a few bad cops that are making it bad for the rest of them.